Okay. So how's it going?
It's going good. How are you? I haven't seen you in probably like 9 or 10 years, probably.
I know it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think it was 2017. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's a while though.
that was a while ago. Yeah. So what have you been up to? How are things?
Just training people still, and I opened up a private gym over here, in
Yes.
the Detroit area, which is cool. It's called Warroom headquarters.
Mhm.
And then just obviously working on the protein bar. That's been like a couple years though in the making. So lots of
Did,
tedious work involved.
and what made you decide to open up your gym?
Well, you know what? Honestly, so the other gym that I was working out at is a great gym. You trained there,
Mhm.
when you came out here, and
What's it called
um,
again?
Royal Oak Gym,
Right. And
awesome gym.
that was like the powerlifting gym, right?
Yeah, a lot of powerlifting. They have like a whole huge powerlifting section. They still do,
Yeah.
at the time. So I was just trying to get my own place so I could kind of control the atmosphere better
Mm.
and kind of just have it a little bit more for just private training with clients, and then I wanted to get other trainers there with their clients. So it was kind of just like no, not open to the public with like a lot of, hustle and bustle going on, just kind of like more of a quiet place to go and train where people could go and, other high end athletes too that are around here in some of the major force sports and kind of
Mhm.
like just get their sessions in and not be bothered by the public kind of thing. So that was kind of like my whole rationale, and that controlling the atmosphere too, which was something I kind of wanted to do. I've had this scenario in my mind for a long time. I kind of, the inception of it as I wanted to kind of make it look like first I wanted to get a building raw and just kind of like have it bare. And then I wanted to paint every single thing white.
Mhm.
So the walls, the ceiling, and I wanted it to be like, look like an art gallery and then just
Mhm.
kind of like drop the equipment down inside of it. So that was kind of the inspiration for it. So
Yeah, it looks really cool. I love how the art is in the gym. It's just like such a cool blend.
yeah, it's different. So kind of like the theme, or you'd say the theme of the gym is 2001: A Space Odyssey, that movie, 1968, Stanley Kubrick. So a lot of his set
Oh.
design I looked over for, God, probably 18 months. A lot of his different sets that he built on different movies, especially 2001, and that gave me kind of the ideas for setting up the gym. And
Awesome.
we actually have some artwork from the movie in there too.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, we have like an 80-inch screen that plays like parts of the movie, and then I had my web guy go in and like add little like War Room headquarters Easter eggs into the actual movie. Like, so if they're in a spaceship and there's like a screen there like that they're looking at, like our logos will come up there and just a whole bunch of different stuff. It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
interesting. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to complete the gym?
Um, well, the longest process part of it was actually ordering the equipment. That took about like 5 months just to get the equipment in. So it gave me kind of a whole bunch of time to get everything straightened out in there. Basically, I had to rip all the electrical out, and it was very outdated and old, like electrical everything. Like it had fluorescent lighting, and I pulled it all out and
Oh,
put like all this LDL, uh, LCD lighting in there because it was really dark and dingy. So
okay.
painting everything, taking the electrical out, putting the new lighting in, putting like, obviously mirrors up, completely redoing like the bathroom. I'll have to send you some pictures of like before and after. It
Mhm.
looked like a prison bathroom before. No joke. It was that bad.
Wow.
Um, and then we just put white tile like all over the place, like on everything in there. And it looks just it's just completely different. So that took like probably 3 months to get all the interiors done, and then we just waited on the equipment. And the flooring actually showed up like about 30 hours before the equipment was delivered. And these guys like worked all night. They drove from New Mexico to Detroit and installed the flooring. And then the next morning, the equipment showed up. Like, because you
Oh,
can't,
wow.
you know, have the equipment delivered and then you have to move it and then put the flooring in. See what I'm saying? So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it was perfect timing. So it took like about three months probably to get that all done, and then we just waited on the equipment and made kind of like little small final touches to the gym. And it's been changing this whole time. I've added more equipment, and it's not a huge space. It's only 2,000 square feet, but
It's pretty
the
good.
use of space is like amazing. Like if you go on Arsenal Strength's website,
Mhm.
we're actually featured on. Well, they have like 5 or 6 gyms that are featured, and ours is one of them.
Oh,
And
nice.
a couple years ago, when we designed the space, their workers that work there voted our gym their favorite looking gym,
Nice.
even though it was the smallest, because they do some huge ones like in the Middle
Mhm.
East and everything,
Oh,
and they do
wow.
big colleges and they outfit pro teams. They're like workout facilities, so that was kind of cool for to be
That's really
recognized for
cool.
that. Yeah,
Well, it no, it looks like an art museum. I mean, in the pictures I've seen, from your Instagram and stuff, it looks
yeah.
amazing.
And then we just recently did some additional new lighting into the ceilings. We did like red lights in the ceiling.
Okay.
And actually those ones are multicolored, but you can do like all red in there with not with all the other lights turned off, and it looks like
Yeah.
it's cool. It looks like Mars in there, and you can do all kinds of different other
Nice.
colors too. So a lot of times we'll put half like red light on and then turn the other lights off, and then have like the garage door open. So we're trying to kind of mimic the like on cloudy days, we're trying to mimic like that morning sunlight when the sun's kind of like still like low in the sky before it's like high, and
Yes.
it's kind of cool, yeah, to get that kind of
Like, while
feel.
you're training?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
yeah. And then I let the trainers kind of like, if they're in there doing sessions later in the day and I'm not in there, they'll just program it how they want, along with the audio system. So it's kind of depends on the vibe and how people, what trainers that how they want to, you know, set their sessions up. So it goes, like I said, a lot with atmosphere, and it's not just coming into a place and training and you know and getting out of there.
Right. Yeah, well, it looks like a great atmosphere, and you must love it so much more than Royal Oak.
Oh, well, I love it just because I can kind of do these little experiments.
Yeah.
But I really
Right.
like Royal Oak though, because it was a great
Mhm.
gym. They have a great equipment,
Yeah.
hardcore place, and
Yeah.
it's just different, kind of a whole different thing.
Okay. Do you still go to Powerhouse sometimes?
Yeah, yeah. Once in a while, actually, me and Shelby went there like last summer
Oh,
and
nice.
trained. Yeah, the one on Woodward and 7 Mile. That's the original one, the very
Yeah.
first powerhouse in the whole world. Yeah, right there.
That's a cool gym too.
Yeah, very cool. And they have a lot of great old equipment, and it's very clean in there. It's a
Mhm.
good gym.
Yeah. And so tell me about your protein bars. When did you, start working on that? You said a couple years.
Yeah, it's been over 2 years, so the whole thing, kind of when I first went into this whole thing, in my mind, I was like kind of thinking, okay, the most important thing to me was like, okay, the exact ingredients that I want, which I already know what I want. Then I want to make, a great macronutrient profile. But then
Mhm.
I started to play around with those things, and the difficult thing for me was to get the taste absolutely correct, but also not forfeiting any of the ingredients or sacrificing any of the nutritional profile that I wanted. That was where
Mhm.
the struggle was. And
Oh.
I never gave up, and it took like over about 2.5 years to get that right. And finally, this last rendition has been just like, there was no compromising on the ingredients or macros, and we finally got the taste down. So, and then along with the name, I don't know what you think of the name, but I think that name is like great. I
It's
mean,
Warroom, right?
it's called War
N
on
War
Sugar.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great name.
so
That's a
it's like the
War on
same
Sugar.
font kinda as my gym,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
War
it
on
looks
Sugar.
amazing.
Yeah, so, you know, I think because the name was so good and it kinda hit so hard and it was, like, just perfect, I then there kinda honestly, after that came about, I kinda had a lot of pressure on me to come up with, like, packaging that I felt worthy to
Mhm.
lend to that name. Now, spent a lot of times in a lot of time in a lot of these stores, walking up and down the protein bar aisles, and a lot of the packaging was bad. Like,
Yeah.
like in the days when they used to have like at the Coliseum when Caesar would go like this and then
Yeah.
the lions would come for the people or whatever they were gonna do to those people. That's the packaging was terrible. It was really
Right.
bad. So I'm like, all right, the name is like I think it's the best name. I'm
Mhm.
not even being biased. I just think the name's great.
It
So
is
I'm
a
like,
great name.
let's make the packaging as good as that. And then
Mhm.
I think that's what we did. I don't know if you've ever seen any of like the packaging. You can when you go to the website, you'll see everything, but like the packaging is really nice. Not many people even do black ever.
Yeah, that
Um,
is really nice.
I
It's very
mean
sleek.
the time that it took to do all this packaging was, I mean, it took lots of times. Like I was taking weeks to like lament over like that lemon blueberry I just showed you. So you can see like when you look really closely, you'll see dewdrops on like the blueberries and the lemons, and then there's
Yeah.
like shadows underneath. And like, I mean, it
Yeah,
took
it's
me weeks to like, I would just look at one small square, like 2 inches by 2 inches, and just examine that, and then go to the next square, and then till I thought it was perfect.
well,
And
you're an
that's
artist,
thanks. Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
yeah, so you look at
yeah,
things in that as an
yeah,
art form. Yeah,
yeah, for
which is
sure.
great.
So yeah, so the response has been really good, and now that we have our new formulation, I mean, now it's just down to perfect. It's down to a T. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. And so when do they become available to the public?
Well, when this podcast comes out, they will be available. All the new
Right.
formulation, yeah. So people can go to warronsugar.com. Now, warronsugar.com, I knew that name was going to be taken somehow. I just had a feeling. So
Yeah.
we actually tracked the people down and actually purchased it from them. So we own the
Oh,
name,
good.
and you can go there and you can order the bars right from the website. We'll shortly have our Amazon store open as well.
Nice.
And then we have a lot of smaller boutique stores around here that carry it, but we're working on some big national accounts. I'm sure there are some stores you're probably familiar with their names, but we're not saying anything yet until it's finalized.
Okay.
So yeah, it's gonna be really good. I think the response will be great.
That's awesome. Yeah, because yeah, you're right. So many protein bars have such crappy packaging and are full of crap. So like
Yeah, yeah,
I was really look I know that you have a high standard of quality. So that's what when I told you like a while ago I was looking for your protein bars because a client wanted me to recommend some protein bars and I'm like I bet go see Bill's like but
yeah,
yeah, they weren't
yeah,
available yet. But now they'll be great.
yeah. It'll be good. It'll be available. I so you're in Vancouver, correct?
Yes.
I know that
So
I did ship some bars over to a fellow over in Canada. I forget exactly where. Maybe kind of like halfway between here and Detroit and Toronto, which is 4 hours away. And I know it took a
like
little bit for it to get there because of
yeah.
customs.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll have that all figured out too. But I know you have listeners that are going to be in the States as well too. So
Yes. I'd probably say most of them are in the States.
yeah,
Because like, most of the people I work with are in the States and stuff. Actually, most of my friends are in the States. I have no friends here. So
no,
it's like, yeah, it's, well, no, I have some friends here, but the States is easier to it's, better to get things there. The customs is a kind of a pain in the butt. I think you're probably talking about Ontario, somewhere in Ontario.
yeah,
It was
yep,
about 4 hours away.
exactly,
Yeah.
yep,
Mhm.
yeah. It was in
On
Ontario.
the East Coast, yeah.
Yep, yeah. So I'm not sure how it is like where you're at, if it's any difference. I'm sure it's kind of the same because it's like a government thing as
Yeah,
far as the
it's
customs
just
go.
the customs, but that's okay. I'm still gonna order them.
No,
Try them
cool.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I saw that like, the name of your gym is really cool too, War Room, right?
Yeah,
That's what it's
Warroom
called?
headquarters, yep. Yep.
And, did you have other War Room headquarters besides the one in Detroit?
Well, we were kind of inspiring someone in Cleveland to do a
Mhm.
Warroom South, and so they're kind of like in negotiations right now, working on that. And it's basically, and we use the same sign that we have, the same font, and so all of the same features. Like we have like this spaceship on one wall that's from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So the people that make that for us would in turn make all this stuff for that other gym as well, and kind of try to do our same layout.
Mhm.
Also, and then Arsenal Strength was trying to help us with that. If anybody wanted to franchise, they were going to help outfit them with because most of my equipment's Arsenal, and I have a few other
Okay.
pieces in there, but most of it's Arsenal. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good equipment.
Oh yeah, very good.
Mhm. Mhm. Well well, that's great. Um, so I wanted to ask you about this because I've never asked you about this. You used to be a professional skateboarder, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So when did you become a professional skateboarder?
When I was 17 and a half, actually, yeah. So I was skateboarding ever since I was about 7 years old, and then
Okay.
I just stuck with it. Actually, where it all started was my parents used to own a restaurant, and
Okay.
um, a lot of the bus boys used to skateboard. And then one day I just like was like, oh, let me try that. And ever since then, I just was like, never put the skateboard down after that. So they kind of
Nice.
introduced me to skateboarding. They're like, hey, you're pretty good at this, like off the bat. So I just kept doing it. And then, as I got to be about 15 or so, 14, 15, I got sponsored. I had a couple sponsors, and then I ended up winning this amateur national championships, which was it had like basically the country was devised into different groups. So they had like an East, Midwest, and West, and then different districts in each of those. And so then you had to qualify, and then by the end of the year, if you made it all the way to the finals, that was like, the best of the best, and anybody that was even qualified to go in that was going to easily turn pro. And I ended up winning that, and then I
Oh,
turned
nice.
pro, and my skateboard sold several thousand, boards a month, and that's how you
Oh,
got paid
wow.
back in the day was royalties on each board that you sold and
Okay.
t-shirts and stickers and stuff. So you got a royalty, and then you had sponsors. Not like the money they make now. Now it's way more money
Right.
back compared to back then. But yeah, that was kind of the gig then. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And then when did you get into bodybuilding?
Well, okay, so I had a knee injury um after a couple years of being pro, like a really bad one. I tore a bunch of ligaments like in my left knee.
Oh, yeah.
Um so one of my sponsors in was Gold's Gym Venice when I
Oh.
was skateboarding. So I actually went out. I moved out there for a while to Venice, and I was rehabbing at the gym there and stuff. And then I became very interested, especially in the nutrition end of things.
Mm.
And I was always like kind of doing weights and training a little bit on the side when I was skateboarding. So I kind of followed the sport of bodybuilding, and I knew about a lot of exercise science and stuff then. But when I was there rehabbing, I really like started to dive into more the nutrition end first, and then later the training. So
Okay.
when I was out there, Chris Aceto had an office there at Gold's Venice, and I used to talk to him once in a while. I had a couple friends that lived out there that actually he was coaching back then. It was like I remember being in his office, and the one thing that really stuck out to me is he used to write these diets up, and the computers back then were so old. Like, and so when he'd print the
Right.
diet out, it actually, I don't know if I mean, this is a long time ago, a printer, when it would print it out on the edge of the sheet, if the sheet of paper was this big, it would
Yes,
have
that
these
you
little
had to tear
holes,
off.
the little holes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how long ago it
Yeah.
was. So yeah, so I had a lot of like intelligent people in that field at my disposal that I could talk to on a daily basis. And so that's when I kind of got
Right.
like into the bodybuilding and training and nutrition. And then really, I never did it. I kind of lived like after skateboarding, like after my injury, I came back, and then I was never really quite the same as I was before the injury, to be honest.
Mm.
And then I really started to get into bodybuilding more and training people and, study nutrition. So the injury kind of prompted my, introduction into the bodybuilding world. And then, you know, I gravitated towards the nutrition end more. And then I
Mhm.
kind of experimented and did it myself. And, then I hooked up with Shelby years later, and he prepped me for my first like I did do a show, two shows before I met Shelby, but then when he prepped me for my first show was like my first real prep, having a coach, and and then I got into like actual like real condition when I worked with him. So
Mhm.
it was like a completely night and day difference of when I did it myself, and when I was doing it myself, there was no coaches. There
Right.
was really no coaches. I mean, there was like one or two in the whole like industry, and Chris Aceto was one of them.
Oh, okay. And then how long did you compete for?
Well, I haven't competed since like late 2017.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So,
But how long did you compete for?
well, okay. So this is interesting. The first bodybuilding show I ever did was in '92, and then I
Okay.
took a long break.
Yeah.
I still kind of lived the lifestyle, but then I didn't compete again until 2013.
Okay.
And then I hooked up with Shelby and I competed with him in 15, 16, 17. And then
Oh, okay.
that was my last show in 17, yeah. It just got to be like too as far as competing goes, it just takes up so much time and energy.
Mhm.
I had business aspirations and stuff, and
Right.
it's hard to do all that. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and
That was
diet
the
for a
same
show,
for me too.
yeah, and you don't feel
I
the
was just
best when
like,
you're dieting.
no, especially close to a show, you like all your energy goes to it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah.
and it's so hard on your body too.
Oh
So,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
that part.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
the
for sure.
those are the same reasons that I stopped. I was just like, "No, I need to put my focus in work instead of competing." And,
Yeah, yeah,
also, I think, it had enough in regards to the extremes that need to be taken for
yeah,
competing.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
a lot different than just getting in shape for the beach.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah,
100% different, yeah.
yeah.
That's what I think a lot of people don't realize, like, how extreme competing is.
Oh, it's super extreme.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
stage lean is, a different animal than regular lean.
Yeah, I mean, when people, you try to explain to them, it's really impossible to explain to them the way you
Mhm.
feel. Let's say, like, 4 weeks out or something.
Yeah.
You try to, but I always tell people that I'm coaching for the first time, I'm like, look, I'll tell you all these things, but you have to experience them for yourself. And then when you're in the middle of it, and then when you finish the prep, you're gonna go, okay, now I know exactly what you're talking about. So, you
That's
know,
so true, you have to live through it, you can't intellectually understand it without
yeah.
going through it.
And I always try to come up with these like analogies, like, and they just sound crazy because I'm like, okay, you're gonna feel like you're on another planet pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you're walking around at a super low body fat level, your body's fighting you, you're in a
Mhm.
fog. It's hard to explain unless you go through it. It really
Yeah.
is.
You kinda feel a little bit like you're dead, like
Yeah,
you're dead, but wired at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a weird feeling,
It's
but
very strange.
yeah, but it's cool. I mean, I'm so glad I did all of that, but I'm also glad I'm not doing that now, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so when you stopped competing, was that was that when you opened, your gym or
Actually opened the gym 4 years ago, so it was about
okay,
2021. So I had
okay,
stopped competing in the end of 17. So yeah, there was a year gap there where I was just kind of focusing on building my business, and then
right,
finally opened the gym. So
okay.
yeah.
But that must have taken a lot of time, like, thinking about the gym and, like, figuring
Oh
out what
yeah.
you wanted and
I was
stuff,
thinking
right?
about it long before I like put the wheels in motion.
Right.
Yeah. And actually back in 2020 I had got this virus and it attacked my heart actually.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that was like a really such a strange thing. Like, it all started. I remember me and Shelby had trained legs on a Saturday. Um, oh no, it was different that week. So it was on a Friday we trained legs, and then like um Saturday I was at this mall walking around, and I just kind of felt like off a little bit, and
Yeah.
I noticed like on my left hand, two of my fingers on the very tips were kind of like numb, and I was like, "Oh man, this
Oh,
is
no.
something weird." And I kind of after that got kind of dizzy, so I was like, "Okay, this has got to be some kind of like cardiac situation, which
Yeah.
I thought because I've studied it enough and been around people that have had those issues, so I kind of figured that's what it was. And I actually I ended up going to the hospital, and I thought maybe just I had like say a blockage or something. I
Yeah.
just kind of just pulled that out of thin air, but who knows? I felt like I had a little bit of numbness in the left two fingers and a little bit on my left forearm. So um, they had given me an echocardiogram. They gave me an EKG first, and that was like normal. Then when they gave me the
Mhm.
echocardiogram, which measures kind of the way your heart, like the blood will come into it and then pump out, which is called ejection fraction. And mine was like really low, like between 10 and 12, and normal is about 50. So it was
Oh,
like really bad. So they say, okay, you might be right. You might have a blockage. So we're going to schedule you for a catheterization. So on the catheterization, they go in through your radial artery in your wrist, and they thread the
okay.
camera through your arm, through your shoulder, and into your heart. And they can look at each um, they can look at all the arteries to see what's going on. If there is a blockage in one, when they're doing that test, I asked them, I go, while you're doing that, if there is a blockage, since you're in there, will you fix it on the spot? And they said yes. So I was like, okay, it's going to be an easy fix. They'll go in there,
Mhm.
find something, fix it. And then when I was coming out of that surgery, I woke up and I asked the surgeon doing the procedure, I said, did you see anything? He said, no, did not see anything. So I was like kind of stumped at that point. And I stayed overnight in the hospital. And the next morning, a couple of the cardiologists assigned to my case came into the room and they said, well, good news. You have no blockages. And I said, well, did I have any plaque or anything in my arteries? And they said, you
Mhm.
had 0% plaque. So,
Mm.
okay, I guess that's good and everything. But on the other hand, it didn't explain why this happened to my ejection fraction. So I was a little bit concerned. So they had run all these tests and they couldn't find anything. And then at the end, one of the doctors said, we're going to test you for this virus called Coxsackie AB. So it's a virus that you can kind of pick up on a surface. They said it's like sometimes prevalent in like public places or daycares, and it's like
Oh.
this. It's like a kind of almost like you feel like you have a chest cold, and it
Mm.
can be in and out of your system in 4 to 5 days, or it can hang around in your system to up to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's what happened to me. And when they checked my Coxsackie level, it was like I did test positive for the virus, and it was like I was looking at like the values for it, and it was like so far off the scale, it was like crazy. So
Oh my
that's
gosh.
what caused my cardiomyopathy. So the way my heart pumping was not correct, it wasn't pumping strong enough. Once it took blood into the chambers of the heart, it wasn't pumping it out correctly. So to give you a little
Mhm.
bit of scale, I was like 10 to 12% ejection fraction, and that's when you're getting to those like single digits or close to 10. It's like pretty much you're supposed to be like looking at being on a heart transplant list,
Oh,
believe it or
wow.
not. Yeah, so that was
Oh,
like real
that's
scary.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when that happens, there is no like set protocol to like, bring you back. There is like meds and stuff you can go on. So when I first got out of the hospital, I had a client that was on the Miami Dolphins at the time, a nutrition client, and he had a friend um that was a really good, well-known cardiologist in the area, but also nationally. And then I had a friend that was a professor over at Wayne's East Michigan State, and he knew the same guy, so he had him call me. I was only out of the hospital for like a day or so, and then he called me the next day and we talked. And he says, "Okay, what did they have you doing?" And I told him everything, and he was like, "Okay, keep that, get rid of that." And then the next day he said, "Hey, I want you to meet my wife. I told him where I lived, and they're like, okay, do you know this one gas station?" I go, "Yeah, I know where it is." So I met her there, and she had like this whole bag of like samples for me of stuff that he
Oh.
wanted me to be on, and he built like this whole protocol, and he's like, "Oh, I'll be able to get you back." He says, "You need to do this," and he goes, "I know you can handle these heavy dosages." So basically, he gave me like lots of beta blockers and things that were going to lower my blood pressure and then also slow down my heart rate. So his idea was you want to get your heart to beat less beats per minute to give your muscle a chance to recover. So I went on all these
Oh,
medications, but he gave me very, very high doses of all these in combinations, which normally they don't do to people. And he said, "I know you can take it. You're an athlete, this and that, and you've been through all these contest preps." And uh,
yeah.
so I kind of equated that whole thing to like the longest contest prep I ever did because my heart
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
pumping correctly. Then I was on all these meds that made me feel weird and like
Mhm.
dizzy and like I could pass out at any time. And it just, it took a good year before I started to feel like a little bit better. My ejection fraction went to like 25, then 30, then 35. And that's right when I hit 35 is when I really started to feel like I could train and do everything back to normal. And then like my last test was like a few months ago was like 51. So I'm like probably better than maybe I was before. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Wow, that's really scary.
it was. Oh, it was definitely scary. So I
Y
have like
yeah.
a interesting story. I for the first 3 months I wore this like portable like life vest they call it, but it's a defibrillator. So if anything happens,
Oh, wow.
yeah, you like wear it, you just put it on under your shirt. So and if anything happens, if your heart stops or something, this thing will shock you. So I was wearing it
Okay.
when I was going to train people. I wore it skateboarding, like And the only weird
Okay.
thing is it had this big battery pack, and it was like if you fell on that, it
Okay.
would not be good. But so I had that on, and one day at Royal Oak Gym, like okay, in that place there is like you come in this one door, and then the gym is kind of separated from the door, so there is no
Mm.
windows, there's no light in there. So one time I was in there training someone, and I was walking through the gym, and the power went off.
Oh,
This building, if there's no windows, no doors, nothing, like only emergency doors, and you
right.
can't. They're sealed up real good. So when the
Mhm.
power went off, it was like so dark in there that you couldn't really even see. Like they always say, can't see your hand in front of your face. Really, it wasn't like that. And
Yeah.
so I got the life vest on. I'm like probably 2 months into my recovery, so very early on in the infancy stages of like trying to pull through this huge event. And so when the power went
Mhm.
off and everything was black, I thought I died.
Oh, no.
And I was like, "Oh,
That's
I
so
died." I
scary.
said that to myself, and then like, boom, then the power kicked back on, and then I could see again. But that's what I thought happened because there was like not many people in there, so it was super
Oh,
quiet. There was no music because the
yeah.
music cut off, so all the power went off. No
Oh my god.
lights, so that was a trip. I was tripping on that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. And what did you think when you thought you died?
I just said that to myself. I go, "Oh, I died," and then and then
Okay.
the lights came back on, so I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay." So I didn't
okay.
really even have time to think about it too much.
Oh, okay.
But if it would have gone on for more than if it would have went on 15 or 20 seconds, oh man, that would have been really weird, you
That
know?
would've been so scary.
Yeah, it was
Oh my
probably like
god.
5 or 6 seconds, but wasn't too bad.
Did you did
That was
the
my
d
NDE, my near death experience.
okay. Did the defibrillator ever go off?
No, that never went off because,
Okay.
it's only if your heart stops, and then that thing will okay,
Okay.
also too, so if your heart stops, it will go on, but it has these like little pads that you put on, and if like one comes loose or something, the machine will start beeping. And if it starts beeping, you have like
Oh.
a certain amount of seconds to press this button. And if you don't press it, it will shock you. So when I was getting the demonstration
Oh,
of this thing, the lady was like, "Listen, if you are not passed out, you don't want this thing to shock you because it hurts. So if that
okay.
buzzer goes off, you got to press this button." So a few times I'd roll over in the middle of the night and they would like come off, and
Yeah.
I'd have to like you know press that thing.
Right.
Yeah, because it would shock
So you
you.
didn't get electrocuted?
Yeah, luckily I never got electrocuted. I heard a friend of mine that had one did, and he said it
Yeah.
was not pleasant at all.
No, that doesn't
So,
sound pleasant.
no.
Like getting an electric fence thrown on your chest.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
kinda
god, and
so
were
that
you
was a
able to so were you
sketchy
yeah,
thing.
sketchy time.
Yeah, it was.
W so were you able to train during that time or no?
The first year, like, towards the end of the around when I got to maybe, like, 10 months or so, I could do, like, body weight stuff, like push-ups and band work and stuff, and then, like, shortly after that, once I hit, like, a year, I was starting to train again light,
Mm.
and it all came back pretty quickly. I mean, you always hear
Yeah.
muscle memory, but it's absolutely a true thing. I mean, once you
Oh,
put that
yeah.
muscle on, it's like you can get it back quick.
Oh,
So,
for sure.
yeah, yeah.
That's so
So,
true.
it was a
What
pretty long recovery though.
and what was it like for you when you couldn't train? Were you just going crazy
Um, you know what?
or not really?
I wasn't going too crazy just because there was so much involved in trying to get
Mm.
better that it kinda kept me
Yeah.
occupied, and I was, like, learning as much as I could about it, and then, along with my physician, I was also finding other things that helped ejection fraction, like sauna and different peptides and different supplements,
Mhm.
and so I actually had a few people reach out to me, I had one guy from Australia reach out to me, he had a lowered ejection fraction, and, Scott McNally, who does all the
Mhm.
podcasts? Yeah, so
Yeah.
he actually referred a guy to me for that reason, and I kinda helped him set, like, his supplements up and just, he told me exactly what drugs he was on for that his doctor had prescribed, and I had said, "Okay, actually write this down and have your doctor look at it and look at these supplements and stuff." So I kinda helping people if they need, someone to listen to or they wanna talk about it or want suggestions as far as outside the box stuff you can do along with traditional medicine for that particular ailment.
And what kind of peptides did you take?
Actually, so, um, I did in the very, very beginning, I took, BPC 157
Oh, yeah,
and
that stuff's
PB
amazing.
500. Yeah, and then actually there was a really big Brazilian study on oxytocin in
Mm,
relations to exactly what I was going through with the cardiomyopathy and ejection fraction. And I really honestly think that helped me really recover quite a bit. And that's interesting. You know, that drug is taken during when a woman is giving birth. It helps to
right.
induce labor and stuff, but it really has a profound effect on upping ejection fraction. Although, you know, just like the sauna, you know, between 5 and 7 minutes of the sauna, you know, was showing good effects on ejection fraction. So mine was so low, and I was like, you know, basically trying to do everything I can to basically save my life,
Mhm.
that I was
Yeah.
leaving no stone unturned, and I was, you know, looking at everything. And my doctor
Oh,
did an amazing job because he had, you know, things he had thought about in the past. Like, you know, I'll give you an example. So you might have seen commercials, maybe not in Canada because I don't know if they do drug commercials there, but
I don't
um,
think so.
yeah, here they do. Oh God, every
Right.
5 minutes there's a
Oh, really?
pharmaceutical, you know, commercial. But there's a medication that was originally designed for
Mhm.
diabetes called Farxiga, and
Okay.
that's like a popular drug, but it really wasn't the greatest diabetes drug. But one thing that they were noticing, that people that were taking it, diabetics who were also had heart failure, it was showing a direct connection on having better blood flow and letting the heart pump better. So he always had the idea of putting me on this Farxiga, which is an SGLT2 inhibitor, technically is what it's called.
Mm.
And he was kind of waiting for the right time to introduce that. And when we finally got so many months into this protocol, he had actually introduced that into my protocol. And within 2.5 weeks, I could tell a difference. And then I got an
Wow.
echocardiogram, and I went up like another 5 or 6 points on my ejection fraction, which is a pretty big jump. And so that was something kind of groundbreaking that he tried on me, and it worked. And now you see these commercials for Farxiga, and they're touting it as such a good heart drug to be on now. They're not
Oh,
even
yeah.
really talking about diabetes anymore, because there's better medications for diabetes than Farxiga, but it's showing, you know, a lot of promise for heart failure, and that's what he had me using it for. But I
Oh,
think I was one of the
good.
first people that tried that.
Oh, wow.
Actually, yeah. So that
That's
was
amazing.
interesting. Yeah.
So you're just kind of testing things out almost like a science experiment.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, he had me on
Yeah.
very high doses. Like, to give you an example of like when I was on this blocker, you know, I he basically explained it to me. He's like, okay, what dose do they have you on? Like, when I came out of the hospital, I had told him, okay, they got me on, you know, 6.5 milligrams every twice a day. So, you know, 13 milligrams total. He's like, oh, he's like, God, he's like, Bill, that's the equivalent of you like taking a 2 pound dumbbell and doing a curl. He's like, that's not going to do anything. So
Yeah.
he had me taking 25 milligrams twice daily. And then when I'd run into people that were on the same medication, I would say, oh, you know, what dose are you on? They're like, oh, I'm on 6 milligrams or 12 milligrams. And I go, I'm taking 25 twice a day. And they couldn't believe it. And so he really pushed the boundaries of, you know, everything that we were doing. And I think his whole theory was that I've been through a lot. I'm an athlete. I can
Mhm.
handle this. And he was
Right.
right. You know, his hunch paid off, and it was definitely the right decision to max me out on everything.
That's
That's the
awesome.
way I recovered. I don't know if I would have
Yeah.
without that. I honestly, yeah.
And so it was just having that virus that caused the whole thing?
Yeah, yeah. It caused
Oh,
my
wow.
ejection fraction to be lowered. And you know, I looked into it and I read up on it and said, you know, absolutely, if it hangs around in your system long enough, when it does attack your heart, that's usually what is the effect of it, is the ejection fraction dropping. So yeah, which isn't good, you know. There's other things that also like can lend to that, getting your ejection fraction lowered. And it's like a lot of times this does happen with people that run marathons like their whole life. They're running,
Mm,
running, running. So what they're basically doing is they're redlining their heart rate all the time. And
right.
it's the equivalent to, let's say, if you go to Germany and you're on the Autobahn and you're running
Mhm.
like, say, a high performance car at 120 all day, parts are going
Right.
to wear out. So
Right.
it's kind of the same thing. Your heart rate is high all the time, especially if you're sitting on the couch, and it shouldn't be in the 90s, mid 90s. It's
Right.
you know, it's not good. So parts will wear out, just as in a machine, as in, you know, the human body as well.
Mhm. Okay. So do you think some of it had to do with that you were competing and that you were always an athlete, or
Well, they were saying that they think the direct correlation was from that virus, but I mean, who
right?
really knows, you know?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
right. Okay, it could have been a combination. Who knows? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
some
lot
of
of
the
stress on
things,
your body
right?
when you're, you
Competing.
know, competing for shows and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, you know, you never know, but they think that was the main thing because that blood value for that Coxsackie virus was so high. It was like
Oh,
skyrocketed off the chart. So they knew I had that. And that kind of like, you know, was a huge clue, you know, huge
right.
clue. So,
And is it common to get that virus?
um,
Or were you just
it
really
is
unlucky?
common, but it's not common for it to stick around so long.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I'm so glad you're better. That sounds
Thank you.
really scary.
It
Yeah.
was scary and it was not
Yeah.
fun.
No. Well, but you got your gyms and your and I saw you posted today you have clothes a clothing line too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So we have clothes from the gym and I tried to kind of make that a little bit different as well. We have t-shirts, sweatshirts, tracksuits. We have a array of different things. Yeah, anybody can DM me for that stuff, or they can go actually to that website is Warroom headquarters. So it's warroomhq.com is that's the website for the gym. Yeah.
And then what's the website again once again for the protein bars?
Waronsugar.com and the Instagram for that is War on Sugar Bar and at War on Sugar Bar on Instagram and then War Room or waronsugar.com. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so what are your future plans like beyond this?
Well, I definitely want to roll out some new items with War on Sugar the line. We're actually right now working on a cookie. You know, I there's been there hasn't been really, in my opinion, like I've been a big fan. I'm always like looking at different protein bars all the time. That's kind of how I got into this.
Mhm.
And then the cookies, protein cookies, there hasn't been, in my opinion, like a really good one as far as like clean. There's been some good
Right.
ones that taste really good, but there's like it's all junk. It's
Yeah, it's
garbage,
just
you know?
a regular cookie with some protein in it.
Yeah, and basically at that point when there's more sugar and stuff in it than there is protein, you probably shouldn't be calling it a protein bar. And then you know, one of my favorite cookies out there too was I think just from the profile and the ingredients at one time was the Quest cookie. They made a good cookie, but now I'm not
Oh.
sure they've changed some of the ingredients, not to my
Mm.
liking. So I thought to myself, like, hey, I'm gonna make the best one on the market.
That's awesome.
And so that's what I'm in the that's right now we're doing some trials and formulating. So I'm really involved. That's kind of my big thing is I'm involved in the formulation side most. That's my favorite thing to do. And, you know, luckily I have like a great team around me that does a lot of the other stuff. So I can kind of now focus on what I'm good at is the formulations, you know. So I really
Like
that's
the
fun
creative
stuff.
part.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's
Yeah.
tedious, but it's fun. I mean, you change one thing and then it leads to other changes and then sometimes those things that it leads to is good though because you'll make a mistake but it might be a good mistake and you come up with like a new flavor or something. Yeah, so I'm working on
That's
this
cool.
cookie right now and make it a little bit different and definitely ingredients will be a lot better than what's out there right now, and there's not that many protein cookies out really, and the ones that are out
Well,
aren't very good.
no. I mean, here in Canada, there's quite a few, but none of them are really good, and the ones that are good aren't that healthy. So,
Yeah, like if you want one that tastes good there's a few out there probably, you know,
yeah,
if you don't care what you're eating. You know?
yeah,
But at that point, I'd rather just get like a good
a regular
junk
cookie, right?
cookie. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, you know?
exactly. If you're gonna eat
So,
junk food, you might as well have just, like, what you want.
yes, the real stuff.
Oh, but that's awesome you're making, like, healthy versions of it because I think that will
Yeah,
help a lot of people too. Because like, so many people have a hard time following very strict diets because they need variety. Um,
right.
like, I mean, I'm really happy eating just, like, chicken every day. I don't need a cookie,
Yeah,
but a lot of
yeah.
people need to have some of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's good for the people to have an alternative if they have like, you know,
Mhm.
if they want something sweet, but they don't wanna go off their diet or they don't wanna, you know, raise their insulin through the roof. I mean,
Right.
that's why, War on Sugar was created, was to get like that taste, but without compromising your health and sugar is just it does a myriad of bad things in your body.
Mhm.
And when your insulin's all over the place, it's obviously, as being a competitor, it's once it's spiked way up, it's not coming down for a while, and it's hard to be in that fat burning zone when your insulin's not stable and all over the place, like as
Mhm.
you see with these drugs like Ozempic and all this that are super huge. I mean, that's basically what it's doing. It's keeping insulin super stable all the time, and people lose weight. So you figure if they know how that works, they can
Right.
mimic they can mimic that with food.
Yeah. I know that's one of the things that drives me crazy. It's like, why don't you just eat healthier? I mean, I know that a lot of people have like mental hangups with things or like addiction issues with food and everything, but it really is as simple as like eating healthy. It will
Yeah,
solve so many problems in life.
it would. Yeah, it would for
Yeah.
sure. So,
So
that's
that's
part of the profile of the bar is that I included some healthy fats in there to, like, as we know, fat will slow the absorption rate of insulin in the bloodstream. So I have that covered, and then we use monk fruit as a sweetener, which doesn't raise insulin. So we've done some testing with glucose meters and things like that too. So it is good for diabetics. It's good for people that want to do keto style uh, diets. It's only 7 net carbs total,
oh nice.
so it's pretty good all around in regards to that.
That's awesome. Oh, well, I'm excited to try it and get my clients on it and stuff
Yeah, definitely.
because
We gotta get you gotta send
yeah.
me your info so I can send you some.
Yeah, I love that. I love that,
Yeah.
and I gotta come to Detroit sometime and check out your gym because it looks
Oh yeah, for
amazing.
sure. Yeah.
But, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on here, and, it was really great catching up with you.
Yeah, you too. I haven't seen you in so long. It's good.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to come over there and visit you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It'll be good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bill, and have a great day.